In the vibrant kingdom of Eldrath, Lyra wakes up to joyful sounds of celebration, unaware of the dark fate that awaits. As the sudden coup led by Lord Kaelin unfolds, she watches in shock from the castle balcony as her world begins to crumble. Forced to flee, Lyra disguises herself as a peasant, feeling the heavy weight of her lost home and identity. In the depths of the woods, she wonders how she might one day reclaim her rightful place as a leader. The sun rose over Eldrath, casting a warm glow that danced across the castle walls. Lyra stirred awake, her heart light with the sounds of laughter and music wafting through her window. Today was a day of celebration, a festival honoring the harvest, and the kingdom buzzed with excitement. But as she stretched and sat up, a slight unease settled within her. What could possibly dim the joy of such a splendid day? Stepping onto the balcony, Lyra took a deep breath, her golden hair catching the sunlight. Below, the streets were alive with color. Children played, merchants shouted their wares, and families came together. What a beautiful day, she thought, her eyes sparkling with happiness. Yet, just as she began to smile, a chilling sound shattered the revelry, the clang of metal and the distant cry of alarm. "What is happening?" Lyra whispered to herself, her heart racing. She turned to the guards, confusion etched on their faces. "Why are the people screaming?" Before anyone could answer, a figure emerged from the chaos, a dark silhouette against the sun. Lord Kaelin, once a trusted advisor, now stood at the forefront of a violent coup. His presence sent waves of dread through the crowd. "You are no longer safe here," he bellowed, drawing his sword. "Eldrath belongs to me now." Lyra's breath hitched as she watched from above. Panic spread like fire. People ran in all directions, their joy turned to fear. She felt her world crumble as the realization sunk in. "No, this can't be happening," she cried, gripping the balcony railing, her heart pounding. The castle, her home, was under siege. "Your Highness, we must take you to safety," a guard urged, pulling her back from the edge. But as they turned, Lyra's mind raced. What about the people? We can't just leave them. With every passing moment, the chaos intensified. The castle doors were barred, but she could see the shadows of her once loyal subjects fleeing. "They need me," she shouted, her voice cracking. But the guard held firm. "You are the last hope for Eldrath. We must go now." Reluctantly, Lyra allowed herself to be led away, her heart heavy. She looked back one last time, the vibrant colors of the festival now replaced by smoke and despair. "I will not forget this," she vowed silently, a fire igniting within her. In the dark corridors of the castle, Lyra's mind spun with thoughts of her identity. A princess, yes, but what did that mean now? She could not stand idly by while her kingdom fell apart. "I must find a way to help," she murmured, her resolve solidifying. But first, she needed to escape. As they reached a hidden passage, Lyra glanced at herself in a cracked mirror. The regal dress she wore felt like a shroud, a reminder of the life she was losing. "I must disguise myself," she decided. "I must become one of them." With a swift motion, she removed the jewels from her hair and pulled on a simple cloak. The fabric felt foreign against her skin, but it was necessary. "Your Highness, we need to hurry," the guard urged again, his voice laced with urgency. But Lyra hesitated. "What if there are others trapped? What if I can do something?" The guard's eyes softened, but he shook his head. "You cannot save everyone. We must save you first." With a heavy heart, she nodded and followed him into the woods, the sounds of chaos fading into the distance. As they stepped into the trees, Lyra felt the weight of her royal lineage settle on her shoulders like a heavy cloak. "How can I reclaim my place if I am nothing but a peasant now?" she pondered, her heart aching for what she had lost. Yet within her, determination stirred. "I will find a way," she promised herself, stepping deeper into the shadows, ready to embrace her new path. The journey ahead would be fraught with challenges, but Lyra knew she had to rise from the ashes of her fallen kingdom. The sun cast a warm glow over the bustling market as Lyra wandered through the narrow streets. She wore a simple peasant dress, the fabric rough against her skin. Her heart ached for the life she had lost, but she pushed forward, searching for food and a moment of peace amidst the chaos of her thoughts. As she turned a corner, a sudden movement caught her eye. A young man, quick and nimble, darted towards a stall filled with fresh bread. Lyra's instincts sharpened. "Stop!" she called out, her voice stronger than she felt. The thief froze, bread clutched tightly in his hands. He turned slowly, revealing sharp features framed by messy dark hair. "You'll regret this," he muttered, eyes glinting with defiance. Lyra stepped closer, her heart racing. "You don't have to do this. There are better ways to survive." The thief scoffed, looking at her as if she were a fool. "Better ways? I'll believe that when I see it." He scanned the market, searching for an escape route. "Why do you steal?" Lyra pressed, unwilling to back down. "What drives you to this life?" He hesitated, his grip on the bread loosening slightly. "A past I can't escape," he admitted, his voice dropping. "I lost everything. This is all I have left." Lyra recognized the pain in his voice. "I understand loss. My home, my family, it's all gone. But this isn't the answer." The thief's eyes widened in surprise. "You think you understand? You're a princess. You have no idea what it's like to be on the streets." "Not anymore," Lyra replied, her tone firm. "I may have been a princess, but now I am just like you. I have to fight for my survival." For a moment, silence hung between them. The young man studied her, searching for signs of deception. "What's your name?" he finally asked. "Lyra," she said, offering a small smile. "And you?" "Thorn," he replied reluctantly. "I suppose we both have our battles." "Then let's fight them together," she suggested, a spark of hope igniting within her. "Help me find others who want to reclaim what was lost." Thorn frowned, uncertainty flickering in his eyes. "You think I can just join you? I'm not a hero, Lyra. I'm a thief." "Everyone has a chance for redemption," she insisted. "You can help me. We can help each other." After a moment of contemplation, Thorn sighed, the weight of his decision heavy upon him. "Fine, but I'm not doing this for you. I'm doing it for myself." Lyra nodded, grateful for the alliance. "Let's seek out Elowen. She is a healer, and I know she will understand our cause." With Thorn beside her, Lyra set off through the winding streets, their footsteps echoing on the cobblestones. They traveled to a small hidden glade where Elowen often gathered herbs for her healing potions. As they approached, they found Elowen sitting alone, her eyes downcast, lost in thought. "Elowen?" Lyra called softly, trying to break through the healer's sadness. Elowen looked up, surprise flickering in her green eyes. "Lyra? What are you doing here?" "I need your help," Lyra said, urgency in her voice. "The kingdom needs you. We need to fight back against Lord Kalen." Elowen shook her head, tears brimming in her eyes. "I cannot. I lost my family to his cruelty. I cannot bear the thought of fighting." "Then let us honor their memory by standing against him," Thorn spoke up, his voice steady. "You have the power to heal, Elowen. We need you." Elowen's gaze shifted between them, uncertainty clouding her features. "You really believe we can make a difference?" "Yes," Lyra replied, her conviction unwavering. "Together, we can reclaim our home." After a long pause, Elowen took a deep breath. "If you truly believe in this, then I will join you. But I need to know we can trust each other." "We will build that trust," Thorn promised. "We are misfits, but together we can create something strong." With newfound determination, the three of them formed a bond that would guide their journey. But there was one more person they needed. They set their sights on Garrick, an ex-soldier who had once fought for the kingdom. As they approached Garrick's worn-down cottage, Lyra felt a mix of hope and fear. Could they convince him to leave behind his past? Would he join their cause? "Let's hope he sees the light," Thorn said, glancing at Lyra with a hint of encouragement. Lyra nodded, her heart racing as she stepped forward, ready to face whatever came next. Together, they would gather the Misfits and forge a path toward a brighter future. The sun hung low in the sky, casting a warm orange glow over the forest as Lyra and her newfound companions prepared for their first mission. The air was thick with tension, but there was also a flicker of hope among them. They stood together in a small clearing, the sounds of nature surrounding them, yet their focus was on the challenge ahead. "We need to rescue those villagers. They are counting on us," Lyra said, her voice steady, but carrying the weight of responsibility. She looked at each of her companions, searching their faces for any sign of doubt. Thorn, the thief, crossed his arms and leaned against a tree. "It won't be easy. The mercenaries are not just some band of thugs. They are loyal to Kaelin, and they will fight to keep their captives." Elowin, the healer, stepped forward. "But we have to try. If we don't, those villagers will suffer. We need to show them that there is still hope." Garrick, the ex-soldier, nodded in agreement. "I have faced enemies before, but I have never fought for something more than my own life. This time, it is for the lives of others." Lyra felt a surge of determination. "Then we will plan carefully. We need to use our strengths. Elowin, your healing skills will be crucial. If anyone gets hurt, you can help them. Thorn, your knowledge of stealth will guide us. We need to move quietly to avoid detection. And Garrick, your experience in battle will protect us." As they discussed their plan, Lyra felt a sense of unity forming among them. They were no longer just a group of misfits. They were a team. Each person had a role to play, and together, they could succeed. As twilight approached, they made their way to the mercenary stronghold. The path was dark, and shadows danced around them. Lyra led the way, her heart pounding in her chest. "Remember, we need to stay quiet. We cannot let them know we are coming," she reminded the group. They reached a vantage point overlooking the stronghold. The sight was grim. Guards patrolled the area, and Lyra's heart sank as she saw the captured villagers, tied up and frightened. "We have to act quickly," Thorn whispered, his eyes scanning the perimeter. "If we can create a distraction, we might be able to slip in and get them out." "Good idea," Lyra replied. "What do you have in mind?" Thorn thought for a moment. "I can sneak around to the east side and cause a ruckus. Maybe throw a rock or something to draw their attention. Then we will move in from the west," Garrick suggested. "Elowin, you stay close to the villagers. If anything goes wrong, we will need your healing right away." The plan was set. With a deep breath, Lyra nodded. "Let's do this." Thorn moved first, slipping into the shadows like a ghost. Lyra watched him go, her heart racing. "Stay close," she urged, turning to Garrick and Elowin. As Thorn reached the east side, he picked up a stone and hurled it into the distance. The sound echoed through the stronghold, and instantly, guards began to move toward the noise. "Now!" Lyra commanded, and they dashed toward the villagers. They arrived at the makeshift prison, just as the guards were distracted. Elowin rushed to the villagers, quickly working to untie them. "You're safe now. We're here to help," she said, her voice filled with kindness. But just as they thought they had a chance, a guard turned back and spotted them. "Intruders!" he shouted. Garrick stepped forward, his sword drawn. "Get them out! I'll hold them off!" "No!" Lyra cried. "We can't leave you behind." "Just go! I will be right behind you!" Garrick insisted, his voice firm. With heavy hearts, Lyra and Elowin helped the villagers escape. Thorn joined them, his face set with determination. They moved quickly, the sounds of battle behind them growing louder. As they reached the edge of the woods, Lyra turned back, her heart aching for Garrick. "We need to go back for him," she shouted. "No." Thorn pulled her back. "We can't risk it. He will find his way. Trust him." With tears in her eyes, Lyra nodded. They had to keep moving. They had saved the villagers, but at what cost? The weight of leadership pressed down on her, and she realized that every choice they made would carry consequences. As they disappeared into the trees, Lyra felt the burden of her role as a leader settle heavily on her shoulders. She had taken the first step toward reclaiming her kingdom, but she knew the trials of morality had only just begun. As the night fell, the forest around them was quiet, save for the soft crackling of the campfire. Lyra, Thorn, Elowen, and Garrick sat close together, their faces illuminated by the warm glow of the flames. Each of them carried their own scars, both visible and hidden, but tonight, they were united by a common purpose. "Let's share our stories," Lyra suggested, her voice steady yet inviting. "We have all lost something. It might help us understand each other better." Thorn looked up, surprised. "You really want to know about me?" His eyes held a mixture of skepticism and curiosity. "Of course," Lyra replied, leaning forward. "We are in this together. Your past is part of who you are now." Taking a deep breath, Thorn began. "I grew up in the streets. I had to steal to survive. My family, they were taken from me when I was young. I thought I could find freedom through theft, but it only brought more pain." He paused, his gaze drifting into the flames. "I ended up in prison, and that's where I realized I was just running from my own guilt." Elowen listened intently, her eyes softening. "I lost my family to a mercenary raid. I was a healer, trying to save them, but I was too late." She wiped away a tear before continuing. "I thought I could never heal again, but here I am, helping you." Garrick shifted uncomfortably, looking at the ground. "I was a soldier for many years. I fought for a king who turned against his own people. When I realized what I had done, I left. I thought I could forget my past, but it haunts me." His voice was low, filled with regret. Lyra felt a pang of empathy for her companions. "I may not have lost my family like you did, but I lost my home and my identity. I was a princess, and now I am just Lyra." Her heart ached as she spoke. "But I want to reclaim my throne not for power, but to protect those who cannot protect themselves." The fire crackled, and a comfortable silence settled over the group as they absorbed each other's stories. Lyra then turned to Thorn, who was nursing a wound on his arm. "Elowen, can you help him?" she asked gently. Elowen nodded and moved closer to Thorn. "Let me see it." As she worked on cleaning the wound, Thorn winced but held still. "You know, you're not alone in this," she said softly. "We all have our burdens." Thorn looked at her, his expression shifting from pain to something warmer. "Thanks, Elowen. I didn't expect to find friends in a place like this." "Neither did I," Elowen replied, smiling faintly. "But we're here, and we must trust each other." As the night wore on, Lyra found herself reflecting on their conversation. She realized that her journey was not just about reclaiming her throne. It was about understanding the people she aimed to lead. Each of them had faced their own trials, and together they formed a bond that was growing stronger by the hour. "Let's adopt the villagers we rescued," Lyra said, her voice filled with determination. "They need a community, and we can give them one. We can build something new together." Garrick raised an eyebrow. "Are you sure?" "It will not be easy." Lyra nodded firmly. "Nothing worth fighting forever is. But if we stand together, we can create a place where everyone belongs." Thorn smiled, a glimmer of hope in his eyes. "I like that idea. A community where we can all be ourselves." "We will be stronger together," Elowen added, her voice full of conviction. As they spoke, the fire flickered, casting dancing shadows around them. In that moment, Lyra felt a sense of belonging she had never known before. Surrounded by her newfound friends, she understood that their shared pain had forged a bond of trust. Together, they would face whatever challenges came their way, united in their mission to reclaim not just a throne, but a future filled with hope. The sun hung low in the sky, casting long shadows on the ground as Lyra and her team approached Lord Kaelin's castle. The air was thick with tension and the smell of impending battle. Lyra could feel her heart racing, the weight of her destiny pressing heavily on her chest. "This is it," she whispered, looking at her companions. "Today, we take back what is ours." Garrick, standing tall with his sword drawn, nodded. "We've come too far to back down now. For every life lost, we will make this right." His voice was steady, but Lyra could see the storm of emotions brewing beneath the surface. Thorn, his fingers twitching nervously on the hilt of his dagger, added, "I've faced worse odds. We can do this together." His usual bravado was tinged with fear, but he was determined. Elawan, her hands trembling slightly, stepped forward. "We must stay focused. Remember, our goal is to free the people, not just to defeat Kaelin." She looked each of them in the eye, her gaze fierce. "We fight for those who cannot fight for themselves." With a deep breath, Lyra raised her sword. "Let's move! For Eldrath!" They charged into the castle grounds, where guards scurried to arm themselves. The clash of steel rang through the air as Lyra led her team into battle. Each step felt like a leap into the unknown, but she felt the strength of her friends beside her. As they fought through the courtyard, Garrick found himself face to face with an old comrade, a man he once trusted. "You shouldn't be here, Garrick," the man shouted, sword raised. "You're a traitor." "No," Garrick replied, his voice firm. "I am reclaiming my honor." They clashed, the sound of their swords echoing against the castle walls. Meanwhile, Thorn slipped through the shadows, using his skills to evade the guards. He spotted a group of villagers locked in a cage nearby. "I'll get them out," he muttered to himself, his heart pounding. He moved quickly, picking the lock with deft fingers. "You're free! Go now!" Lyra fought her way toward the castle entrance, her mind focused on the duel that awaited her inside. As she entered, she saw Kaelin waiting for her, a sneer on his face. "So the little princess comes to play," he taunted. "You think you can take my throne?" "I don't seek your throne," Lyra replied, her voice steady despite the fear bubbling inside her. "I seek justice for my people." Kaelin lunged at her, and they clashed in a whirlwind of steel. Each strike felt personal, a battle not just for the kingdom, but for Lyra's very identity. "You will never win, Lyra," Kaelin spat. "You are just a girl playing at being a queen." Lyra gritted her teeth, recalling the faces of those she fought for. "I am more than that. I am their hope." She pushed back against him, her sword connecting with his, sparking as they fought. Outside, Elawan was tending to the wounded, her healing magic flowing like a gentle stream. "Stay with me," she urged a young villager, her hands glowing. "You're going to be okay." But as she healed, the pain of her family's loss surged within her. She could still hear their screams, the memories flooding back. "I won't let this happen again," she whispered, channeling her pain into her magic. "I will protect you all." Back in the castle, the duel continued. Lyra's strength was waning, but she refused to back down. "You will not win, Kaelin," she shouted, her voice echoing through the hall. With one final surge of energy, she disarmed him, knocking his sword from his hand. As Kaelin fell to his knees, Lyra stood over him, breathless and trembling. "This is for my people," she declared, raising her sword, but she hesitated. No more bloodshed. In that moment, Lyra realized that true leadership was not just about power, but also about mercy. She sheathed her sword and turned her back on him. Leave Eldrath and never return. With the crown regained, Lyra looked around at her friends, each having faced their own battles. They had fought not just for a throne, but for their lives and the lives of their people. The sacrifices weighed heavily on her heart, and she knew that the journey ahead would be filled with challenges. Together, she said softly, we will rebuild. The fight for Eldrath was far from over, but for the first time, Lyra felt a flicker of hope. The dawn of a new era was on the horizon. Lyra stood on the castle balcony, the sun rising over Eldrath, casting a warm glow on the kingdom she had fought so hard to reclaim. Now, as queen, she felt both the weight of her new responsibilities and a sense of peace. The streets below were alive with the sounds of laughter and chatter as the people began a new day. She took a deep breath, remembering the journey that had brought her here. Your Majesty, a soft voice broke her thoughts. It was Elowyn, the healer, who had become a trusted friend. The people are eager to hear your words today. Lyra turned to her, a smile spreading across her face. I hope they know how grateful I am for their support. Without them, I would not be standing here. Elowyn nodded, her eyes shining with admiration. You have brought us together, Lyra. But remember, it is important to listen to their needs as well. As they descended the staircase to the Great Hall, Lyra felt her heart race. She had promised herself that her reign would be different. She would not rule from a distance, but would walk among her people, hear their stories, and learn from their experiences. In the hall, the sound of chatter grew louder. Thorn, the thief-turned ally, was already engaging with the crowd. I tell you, the best way to steal is to make them laugh first, he joked, earning laughter from the villagers gathered around him. Garrick, the ex-soldier, stood nearby, arms crossed, but a small smile played on his lips. You should stick to honest work now, Thorn, he said, shaking his head. Lyra is queen, and you are part of her council now. No more stealing! Thorn raised his hands in surrender, grinning. All right, but it's hard to leave behind old habits. Lyra joined them, her laughter mingling with the crowd. Thorn, your wit is as valuable as any skill in battle. We need your spirit here. The crowd quieted as Lyra took her place at the front. Her heart swelled as she looked out at the faces of her people, who had once lived in fear and uncertainty. My friends, she began, her voice steady and clear. Today we stand together, not just as subjects, but as a family. A murmur of agreement rippled through the hall. She continued, we have faced darkness, but we have emerged into the light. I promise to listen to each of you, to understand your needs, and to ensure that every voice is heard. From the back of the hall, a villager spoke up. What about the farms? Many of us lost everything during the coup. Lyra nodded, acknowledging the concern. We will rebuild the farms. I vow to provide support to those affected. We will set up a council that includes voices from every corner of our kingdom, ensuring that everyone has a say in our future. Elowyn stepped forward, her voice clear. And we must not forget the healing that needs to happen within our community. Many have lost loved ones. We need to come together to support each other. Lyra looked at her friend, grateful for her insight. Yes, Elowyn is right. We will also set up a program for healing, both physically and emotionally. Together, we will help each other recover. Thorn raised his hand, his expression serious. And what about those who were loyal to Kaelin? They are still our neighbors. We need to find a way to bring them back into the fold. Lyra paused, considering his words. You are correct, Thorn. We cannot build a kingdom on division. We must reach out to them, offer forgiveness, and show them that we are stronger united. As the crowd began to cheer, Lyra felt a sense of purpose wash over her. This was her new dawn, one built on empathy and solidarity. Later, as the sun began to set, Lyra stood on the balcony once more, looking out at her kingdom. The laughter from the feast below echoed in her ears. She felt a deep connection to her people, knowing that they had all played a part in this newfound unity. "Thank you for believing in me," she whispered to the wind, feeling the weight of her crown settle softly on her head. "Together, we will create a kingdom of compassion and understanding." Share this story if you believe that unity and compassion can transform even the darkest circumstances. Leave a comment about a time when listening to others made a difference in your life, and subscribe to our channel for more inspiring tales like this one.